hospitality on board with the Apple TV is predicated on having them actually get that technology in their rooms first. Part of me thinks that the only way that this will be widespread in terms of getting, a Marriott or a Hilton or somebody on it, they'll have an app with a landing page and they'll have a video of their overall stuff. But in terms of actually getting, if they wanted to get individual properties, I think that's a big mindset shift that they have to accept first. That because most of the hotels that I go to don't even have their TVs don't even have they either have that old school the integrated cable.
The
remote.
That is restricted to
I'm too young to remember that.
Yeah. Well, no. I remember it because I was at a hotel this weekend and they had it. But I'm not staying at the $300 hotel. So I'm saying But I think they've got to shift how they view that kind of thing, because right now I think they would see that as an entertainment type deal rather than something integral to what they're offering people.
Yeah, and for that aspect, I agree with you. I'm thinking more in the idea of okay, we're at this magic time in our life where people are actually getting off of the grid when it comes to Comcast and DirecTV, because even a year ago, Pay for Play or like Hulu, where you'd only play a week-old episode, you couldn't play the current episode. It's now almost in immediate time. Now you got ABC, CBS, NBC doing live on-demand programming that they never had available before. So you don't miss watching NBC anymore because you can actually just play any of their shows. And so now you're at that point that people are getting used to the idea that they simply choose what they want to watch. Here comes Apple TV, which has been it has been flat for a few years, just offering the same junk that everything like Roku and everybody else does. And now they're saying, wait, we're going to make apps. So instead of having 400 channels on cable that you aren't interested in, you download apps that you are like, hey, I'm thinking about going to Portland, Oregon. Let me download the Portland, Oregon TV app. And on there with Apple Pay, I can look at hotels and maybe buy a room or get a room, and I can rent a car and make a restaurant reservation and book tickets to an event. And then, oh, look, my Apple phone, I go and when I show up, it all moves over to it. And now I have my tickets and I have my itinerary and I have my directions all on my mobile version of the TV app.
So do you think that these apps could eventually take the place or, act as a complement to concierges?
I think it's huge for that. I think it's huge in the sense that you would choose the content, and this is keeping it just to the hospitality aspect, the content that you're most interested in, because some of the features that I saw in the TV iOS when they rolled it out for when Tim did that at the big the Apple thing was they used the Major League Baseball example where, okay, you like this one player for this one baseball team. So you say, hey, I like this player. You actually talk to the remote because Siri's through it, and it's got an accelerator, so you can just wave your hand to make channels change. And you say, hey, I really like this player on the Texas Rangers. And what happens is you go to watch something else on the Apple TV, and as soon as that player is either up at bat or was a part of a play, boom, all of a sudden your screen split and it brings you live or plays back from the moment it all happened, what happened with that player that you selected. So I'm thinking if that technology gets translated into the app functionality in the iOS, and say, for instance, I'm thinking about going to New York for Christmas, just because I'm thinking maybe, I don't know. And I set that up on the New York app. And so now it knows that I like staying at Marriott, or I've indicated that I like staying at the Marriott Marquis. So all of a sudden, when something pops up like a special offer for the Marriott Marquis, I might be watching TV for some other reason, and all of a sudden, flip off on the side says, hey, New York app, boom, Marriott Marquis has a super rate for these dates you're interested in, and here's some more information about those same dates in case you want to look at a little bit more data. And next thing you know, I switch over to that app, and I'm kind of going through in a big screen way where it's not a computer website, but an actual app built for the TV. My experience maybe that I will have in New York if I go and click the button that says, yeah, Apple Pay, go over and buy my room. That's kind of what I'm thinking might be a future to it. Mr. Cole, what do you think?
I'm thinking there's a huge opportunity for spam for that. So there's going to be a lot of ad blocking. Because again, the hoteliers are going to think, hey, they're on Apple TV. They like me. Give them an offer, sort of thing, and just start firing things. So the whole relevance aspect is going to be huge. I see the huge opportunity when you're watching something on the Travel Channel or National Geographic, something like that. And you go, wow, that's really interesting. How do I find more, whatever it may be, or even you get something like a wendyperrin.com, something like that, where Wendy's going to the Fogo Island Inn or something in where is it? Not New Brunswick, Nova Scotia. I'm not sure. It's way out there, somewhere in eastern Canada, right? So if you're doing that, then all of a sudden, now I can get reservations. I can find out more, and kind of that integrated hypertext with the video, or deeper information. I think that's a huge aspect of it. Yeah,
Carrie's chimed on the side because we have all the seats full. She said the real question is, would they be able to produce content that is valuable enough for people to care? And statement also is, she says, TV's dead. Once Apple finds a way for you to select what you want to watch, when you want to watch it, cable will go bye-bye. I agree with that in the sense that we're already kind of there with the on-demand stuff that's available even on the iPad, where you're watching NBC News or NBC for whatever reason, or HGTV for any reason, HBO Now for any reason. I think that's there to a point, but now this is being translated to an experience on the TV. Now, even Roku's doing that now. Roku and Kindle Fire all still have those channels of choice. I think some frustration from doing it is not knowing what channel handles what programming content that you like, and then getting settled into that. And Apple will solve that by saying, you want that channel? I know where to go to get it and bring it over.
Yep.
But I think expanding the idea past the concierge level of the city, wonder if you're wanting to plan a wedding, and you indicate ideas that you have, whether it be an island wedding in summer, and you have certain colors you like. An app can be built on the TV now that you can make this kind of interactive experience, and it tailors whatever data the app builder has put into it to give you options to follow or to develop based on locations or experiences or vendors. I mean, it's a hybrid way of looking at websites in the TV experience, where you're not just treating it as a website, you're treating it in the context, and the TV with its full visual capability and its waving hand interaction allows you to really customize what the app could be used for.
Or you use something like this, and all of a sudden you're doing a destination wedding. It's happening wherever in, Jamaica, Cancun, and all of a sudden you can have someone from the venue, the wedding planner, groom, bride, parent, that sort of thing, all there at the same time. And again, to be able to share video and things like that interactively in a large format where you can go, wow, that's spectacular. You want to see what the presidential suite looks like. Boom, here it is. Especially if the individuals can start serving that up themselves.
So mine is just reading about it on a page and looking at pictures. You're actually essentially placing yourself into the actual experience of this location. I mean, that's something short of someone just periscoping an island wedding in Jamaica, and you're just there. You have no idea who's getting married, but you see it. You see how beautiful it can be. So you're essentially building your dream wedding by viewing like all these other interactive experiences.
Yeah, actually, a great thing that we did at Mark Travel, and this was several years ago after Cancun and Riviera Maya got hit by that huge hurricane. The big thing was people thought that it had been wiped off the face of the earth. So we wound up, it was a huge ordeal, got all sorts of hoteliers, did a live feed from the destination, and did a bunch of destination videos on, hey, look at the beaches, and here are the hotels, and everything's okay. Come back, and it really helped accelerate the kind of resurgence of the destination. Now, I mean, if we had Periscope or something like that, or Meerkat back, it would have been just like, hey, look at this, everything's cool. And even fast, where that took us, and it was fast, probably 60, 90 days to work that up. All of a sudden, it's just like, get somebody down there on the beach. Sort of thing.
We had a couple new people join. Just to know, the topic we're talking about right now is, just to keep up to speed on conversation, is we're talking about Apple's new TV iOS system having been rolled out, and one of the first candidates that have built an app for the new Apple TV coming out is Airbnb, which, again, from what they show, if you go to airbnb.com/Apple TV or something like that, or at least do a Google query on it, you'll pull up their page that they're highlighting what they anticipate doing for it. And it's one of those immersive interaction. I think a lot of this transition initially will be quasi-browser-based translations. Like, you're going to have similar content. You're going to have similar navigation functionality. Like, okay, I want to go from this content to this content because it's the progression. But I think as it comes into its own, I think the interaction with the gestured accelerometer remote and the ability to verbalize changes in what you're asking will allow for a different user experience that will get cultivated over time. I mean, Mr. D, I think you're going to be like a man in the band, because if this does take off, the content that's necessary for it to succeed just doesn't exist at the level it's going to get used at.
I'm looking through what Airbnb is doing, and it's interesting. It seems, I was just reading the same article that Tucker posted, but I think it's going to take a little bit longer for big brands, especially legacy brands, hotel brands, to get on with this, because we have to see exactly what is the content going to be different than what we already have. And so if it's a straight translation from their website to the Apple TV, then I don't think consumers are going to want that as much. Because you mentioned earlier, like, you know, the baseball league, which escapes me right now, the
MLB.
The MLB. I was going to say the NBA, but I was like, that's basketball. But the MLB, that's something that I'm going to want to watch if I'm a baseball fan. But present company excluded, I don't know how many people are really that excited about hotels. When you're looking at hotels, you're looking to plan travel, or you're looking for business, or you're looking for something that you have to go to. And so baseball is a pleasure thing. And from my perspective, booking a hotel is something that I have to do, and it's something that I'm going to try and get done as quickly as possible, because that's only a gateway to the rest of my trip, or the rest of whatever it is that I'm doing while I'm out.
But to add on to that, it can also show you that, you know, people don't really know that they have a need until you have a solution to it.
That's true.
If you have the option to virtually experience a wedding in a hotel app, then why not do it? And why not be the industry leader in doing that?
I think Lauren's getting a whole bunch of jumping on this to get him some. I know, but I think
talking. He's just watching. It's amazing.
Yeah. But I think what we're going to see is initially in the next few years, the thing is the Apple TV, which I'm an Apple guy, and I like to think I'm an early adopter. I don't use my Apple TV anymore because there are better solutions than the Apple TV out there right now.
Mackenzie.
And so I think what we have to see, Airbnb is already doing interesting, exciting things on other spheres. So brands that are already doing innovative things on other platforms and channels are naturally going to move over and do things with Apple TV, because they already have that content being created, if that makes any sense.
Yep.
And so basically,
case in point, and not to beat on Starwood, but I've been beating on them for a couple days. There's been $100 million doing their ad campaign to reposition the brand. And you look at the ad, the television spots that just came out.
Mm-hmm.
You cover up the brand for Sheraton. You can't tell what it is. It doesn't even look very innovative. I mean, you just kind of look at it and go, absolutely generic. Big money at a time when the whole thing's for sale. It's insane because they don't have the content. They don't have it. So they went out, they had to do something generic for everything. And that's exactly the problem that Airbnb faced, where every product they have is different. Mm-hmm. I mean, by definition. And that's why it's so rich, and that engagement from host to guest is so critically important to them.
Yep.
So
Carrie brought up, because she can't sit down in the chair, so she's typing good things to say. We have to start treating cable like a computer. It can't be a static platform anymore, and you should be able to engage with content on TV. And that's very true. I think this opportunity of app building for Apple TV is probably the first gateway of opportunity for people to have an interactive experience based on the app's design and development. I think, kind of like going back to the phone analogy I had back when I was first trying to build an app for the iPhone, people were down on the phone, like, oh, it's glass screen, it doesn't have keyboards like BlackBerry.
Mm-hmm.
Who's Apple thinking they are building a phone and so forth? And until the App Store kicked in and showed that it was more than a phone, people didn't give its market share much credit. I mean, at the time, Motorola, Nokia, they were king. I mean, there was no disputing their authority on the phone building market. The clamshell phone was it. And now they're looking at Apple TV the same way. It's been a slow contender. It's not been a high adoption, very low percentage usability. It's kind of been the same thing for freaking years. You know, now all of a sudden they're just offering the same variants, which is, we're going to let people start building stuff on it. And I think to the point of what you're saying with the hotels is, if we go into it as a marketer tries to, saying, I want to sell my product, I think we're going to get lost in the white noise of being just one other person that's trying to sell something. If we try to capture because it's such an open field right now, nobody else is doing it. Be the portal of destination. Be that representative that says, come to my market. I want to talk about everything about my market. Oh, by the way, you should stay at my hotel because I'm telling you everything about my market that's close by and valuable because I'm in the middle of it. I think by making that destination marketing strategy choice, the hotels can do this without thinking that it has to be a hotel app to do it. It can be only that they're the focus of it, I think.
No, absolutely. It's what do people want to do at that hotel for the weekend? They're going there for a romantic whatever. It's an anniversary. It's just a weekend away, or they're going there to see a show or to do something. You said go to New York. Well, are you going shopping? Are you doing whatever? And the hotel can start bundling things together that start saying, hey, you want to go shopping? We know the best places up on Madison Avenue. This is going to be great. This isn't just hopping through the throngs and Bloomingdale's. We can take you to some really cool boutique. That's great stuff. It's huge value. And again, that's kind of what the Airbnb stuff sort of is. If you start knowing these hosts who really know the inside, how to live like a local there, that's huge. And the hotels have to adapt to that.
So on the Airbnb app, is Siri going to be integrated into it? I mean, just like it is with the iTunes store or the Netflix, you say, Siri, I want to watch science movies based in the 70s, but only the good ones, and it compares all these different data sources and shows you exactly what it wants you to see. Like it shows you exactly what you want to see. Yeah. Can you say, show me houses in Austin, Texas that have 2 bedrooms that are rated high in the Domain District?
They have opened, but from looking at the iOS, being a SDK developer, they have allowed the Siri interface, Google command, to be a part of the iOS build for the app builder. So, if you define its ability to function for that search query data, it would be a part of the app potential where you can say, hey, I just want to see houses that are 2-bedroom, blah, blah, blah. Because that's what Siri, I think is, I'm not Siri, but I think that's what Airbnb is featuring on their page, is that as an example of using Airbnb on the TV, it does say, just show me houses in this city that have these many rooms, this kind of whatever. I think they use that as an example of it too. So
I think
the others would be the same.
I think the best avenue, or the avenue that I would take if I were a big brand, a hospitality brand going forward, is I would take a tack of showing people destinations that they want to go to. Airbnb is unique in that the experience of booking an Airbnb and the place that you're going to pick is a part of your trip. It's a bigger part of your trip than picking a hotel room because you're picking someone else's home. So they've got something unique where they can basically sell through there. I would take the tack of, if I was Marriott, I'd say, look at these beautiful destinations that we're in. By the way, you could also stay there. As opposed to being like, these are our rooms and they're in places. But show people what it is that they want and then sell to them afterwards, because I think that's where a lot of brands are going to come out. They're going to be like, sell hardcore. I know Indochino is trying to do Indochino. They're the custom suit people. They're wanting to do something where you get measured for your suit in front of your Apple TV. Applications like that, I think people are going to want to go for, because that's interesting. That's different. But I think if people come out and they're like, I'm going to sell you forks on Apple TV, well, I've got 1 billion forks I can buy. Why would I go on Apple TV to buy a fork? And they've got to show that there's an audience there. They've got to make the audience.
Yeah. BF Peters, who joined us, and I'll get to Carrie's as well, mentioned in the comments, says, think about people that were on YouTube first and are now doing well. Brands can now have a similar reach as the travel channel. I think that's a good point to say that instead of just being restricted to the video that's produced and the message that a video is making, the app build for Apple TV allows for greater diversity. I think, however you said it, of being more of that concierge. There's different aspects about it that can be incorporated into the discovery relationship with the app's value. Carrie also pointed out, and this is a good point because Renaissance does do this. Renaissance brand does do this destination identification as a part of their core market strategy. I mean, they don't try to sell the hotel as a room and a rate, but rather the experience that the hotel can offer and where it's located and the value that represents to staying at that hotel. She points out the Navigator program that they use is really the one that is driving that discover the local value. So that's a very good point.
That seems like a good translation if they want to from there.
Yeah. And then we're just picking one. I mean, we're staring at it. We're looking at this empty canvas. I mean, It could be anything of this, and it could be something totally unexpected. We're talking about concierge interfaces and destination marketing and, don't be the hard sell and all this. Somebody, just like these apps that have been so successful for the phone, have taken completely different tacks to it that we may not even be thinking of real value. I mean, you could have a TV app that is something like we talked about a destination value, and instead it also draws in all these other apps that could be used, like having a New York subway guide and having a Curb account that gets you your taxi rides, or you don't know how fast these APIs can coalesce to doing stuff that we just haven't even thought of, because now instead of talking about being on a small screen of a laptop or even smaller of a tablet or the proximity location value of your mobile, you're talking about a whole different context of dialogue, sitting somebody in their house in front of a large visual display that they have now an interactive capability with the voice command and the motion activation remote and all that stuff.
So do you think like voice commands like Siri, get me an Uber, when there's like 12 people in the room and you're ready to go, you just say get me an Uber, they send the Uber there, like an Uber XL or something like that, to your location?
Yeah.
Like through Apple TV or just through your phone?
Like through the TV. Like could you say to your TV, get me an Uber, and then Siri automatically registers it?
Well, we know that this is going to be tied to Apple's home intelligence programs.
Right.
Because, turning lights on and off, unlocking doors, security systems, thermostats, cameras. We know that
anybody else getting like a very 1984 feeling with this whole thing?
Yeah, watch Apple's Apple's 1984 ad, and you go, "Oh my God, they've seen the future," and it wasn't IBM; it was Apple.
Yeah, like Apple has become Big Brother.
Well, when you start adding the fact that Apple is, of course, with their iBeacon technology, Google has quickly jumped on that. Facebook, everybody's offering free beacons because where Apple's beacons is more of a push relationship. Most of the APIs are about push notifications. Google and Facebook are all passive data. They're all about knowing and affirming the data about your movements and actions in places. So we missed something from Bethany. Bethany said, I agree on the cable computer comment from Carrie. I think about shows like Pretty Little Liars that have the Twitter hashtag by scene as a lower third graphic during the program while the stars are living on their own Twitter accounts, using it in real time with the show. That's a whole other aspect about this interactive capability of watching. I mean, we've seen some apps pop out there. Yahoo had one and a couple others where you could have the app listen to the TV and it knew what you were watching, and also get connected to the social stream of conversation on Twitter and so forth. This might be a whole new amp up on interactive dialogue with shows, and especially as to Bethany's point, if the show's creators are participating in that conversation, now what? What messages get conveyed from an advertising point?
That is the possibility that I'm most excited about, because as I do a lot of live tweeting during events, and there have been apps that what they do is they listen for the show and they sync up streams, basically, so that you're following a conversation with people around the world through Twitter, through other channels, and you're able to join the conversation on your iPad while you watch. If they can incorporate that in a great way, that's a possibility that I see being able to be used for other things. That has greater implications for sports. Definitely. I mean, that's accurate. But that's where I think some of the cool things are going to happen. I think that's where any good app company who does it already is going to get on Apple TV, and they will drive, I think, a big charge for some exciting new functionality that we haven't even thought about yet.
Well, I've got a question now. So how do the hotels deal with this? When you're traveling, the whole thing's going to be your whole life at home, right? Apple TV's tied into your whole, home automation. It's tied into your phone. Your whole life is wrapped up in that. And now you're traveling, and you're going to expect, I want to do the same sort of things. I want to go to, say, hey Siri, I want to go watch my Netflix or whatever. And you want to see it there on your large, whatever it is, 50-inch screen hanging on the wall of the hotel room. How do the hotels deal with that? Because then, I'm not an Apple guy. I'm an Android guy, right? So
they also have to deal with that's their
what
their
happens? People are going to start doing negatives on me when I said, "Oh, dear."
There's no way to take the little happinesses away, Robert. They're all
But for a long time, being able to sell entertainment in room, that's a source of revenue for a lot of hotels, right? I don't know if that's still a big source, but I know you can still dial up on the TV and you can buy a movie.
Well, you should be able to dial in. You should go to, say, to the TV. You're sitting there in Orlando and go, hey, we need Disney tickets. Sort of, we need Universal. What are the line predictions that, you start, really starting to mash up some of these sites. You go, hey, maybe we should go on Tuesday instead of Wednesday. That's great. Let's go. Let's buy it. Boom, you're done.
I know some of the luxury hotels they're starting to include, and when I say luxury, I don't mean like the $1 billion nights, but the nice places are starting to have the options where you can, view Netflix. You can sign in with your Netflix account if you have one. You can watch in room. I see that being more of a solution for in actual hotel rooms. The ability to easily get into, so it may not be an Apple TV. I'm sure some company has already created some proprietary hotel focused technology, which will then allow them to display Netflix, on your hotel TV screen. That's what I think is going to be more of a possibility than actually, modded Roku's probably, but I don't think Apple TVs are going to be in room except.
I like that idea of, if you do have an Apple account and you have an Apple TV at home and it's associated with that, you sign into an Apple TV in a hotel room and it basically makes it more settings. So your apps are there, your passwords are already in there and everything like that. And then you can purchase, like Trey says, the media that you want without it being billed to your hotel bill.
But I don't think that's going to happen because that cuts the hotel out of a chunk of profit that they want and that they've owned for a while. And that's just not, on an enterprise level, that's not how Apple operates in terms of doing accounts. Because if that's something they would have done that with iPhones and iPads long ago. And so what they're just going to do is they're going to update that thing when you go to the hotel and you turn on the TV for the first time and it's like, welcome to Palm Springs Hotel. And here are the 20 cable channels that we have. But if you want to buy your HBO movies, you can buy them here. If you want to buy your adult movies, you can buy them here. You can also do Netflix here. That's what I see happening as another avenue. They'll probably figure out a way to charge. Because, my thing is when I stay at a hotel and I'm watching something on TV, I'm not trying to schedule must-see TV. I just want something that's on while I'm falling asleep or while I'm getting ready to go out. The hotel is just a part of the journey, not the destination.
No, it's a good point. I think to Tucker's point, there will be some Minority Report dumb terminal interaction that will eventually happen that says, my phone, because of now Apple TV iOS, I can walk up to an Apple TV iOS terminal of sorts, a big screen like Courtyard's billboards, and walk up and sync via NFC or Bluetooth 2 or something, walks up and go, hey, Lauren, and here's the functionalities that I have that's been ghosted on my Apple phone, similar to what I use the TV for, like, who knows, Dallas channel, because I'm needing Dallas channels. And I can go over and say, hey, look, I have tickets for such and such, what's directions to it? And interact without having to pull out the phone and go through the small screen process. I could actually walk up to a kind of a dumb interface that turns alive because now there's an iOS platform built for large display, verbal command, gesture kind of based stuff, I guess. Not that phones couldn't eventually be or just keep expanding into that role, but I think this gives them a new venue of opportunity for it. Carrie wrote a novel on the other side. Okay. She booed Android. And
okay, stop using Google. Just go completely Google free and see how your life is.
I think we should all do a challenge where we only use Apple Maps for a week.
Hey, we just
end up.
I just did one. We just did one this morning with my wife on Siri versus Google Now because she upgraded to iOS 9 and everything. Okay, how?
I can't figure about
Google. The question she came up with, she got killed. Google Now, pow.
So, I was listening to a podcast today, and they were talking about the biggest thing you use Google Maps for is to know about the business that they look for on the maps, rather than the actual directions. Like now, because of Google's better efficiency, it was a conversation about how Google approaches maps versus Apple. Apple has improved their variations with including transient and traffic and all that stuff, which Google's been doing all along. So they're only trying to play catch up. But Google, if you Google a business and you pull it up, it tells you whether it's open or closed. And this dude was talking about the fact that that's what Google uses it for. Is like, hey, I want to go to the XYZ store. Oh, it's closed. That's what they use it.
Yeah, and when you
True.
get driving directions now, it'll send up a little notification saying, "Hey, that place may be, it's getting close to
Yep.
close time you get there," which is great. That was one of the examples my wife did. It was a Chinese restaurant for lunch. She goes, "What time does such and such open, or what time do they close, or something?" And so they open at 10:30 in the morning, sort of thing, because it anticipated, it knew the time now, and it knew her acting, and gave her the information. Like, oh, wow.
Wait, was she going to a Chinese restaurant before 10:30 in the morning?
No, she was looking for lunch, right? So she said,
Because that's not a smart idea.
She would, though. She would.
Bart just went over and said Yelp does that as well, which is tied into Apple, and that's true. So Apple has the data. They just haven't really incorporated it into a methodology like Google has. And again, it goes to the idea Apple's providing a service based on direction, and Google's looking at maps as a service of information. Not only how to get there, but what you need to know, like phone number and hours of operation, and even maybe potential more information. So
yeah. Well, now that they're tying in calendar into Google now, and they're already scanning your Gmail and things like that. So all of a sudden your flight reservation, everything like that's going. And again, it's the Big Brother getting kind of spooky here. If
all over convenience sake, but Apple's doing it. Their integration with it now is like, hey, stuff that comes through on your emails can get thrown into calendar right away. Right. If it's seen as being an event, they'll actually say, do you want to throw it into your calendar? So they're even offering that increased functionality in the new iOS 9 too.
Yeah. So I see this thing as, it doesn't matter if you're on your notebook, you're on your phone, you're in a hotel room. I just look at, people are going to expect kind of this seamless, and I don't know. I don't know how it works out with the walled gardens, because it's going to wind up being Google or Apple or Facebook. Probably not. Maybe Amazon. I don't know. But maybe Microsoft. But all of these guys, everything from their ad tracking IDs to everything that's being used for personalization is all into these walled gardens. And I look at the challenge for the hotels are, okay, we're going to do this Apple TV. Oh, now we're going to do this Google thing. Now we're going to do this Facebook thing, because you've got all these little, groups of people who are really entrenched in those platforms, right? And those platforms for advertising basis, things like that, are reaching out to extend their capabilities and to provide people video and comment on things and how that goes and integrate it in. So I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah. Anything else? I mean, we kind of went a little over a half hour, but then I didn't start recording until like 5 minutes into it, so it kind of gives us a half hour recording to keep on this. Robert, did you have anything else you wanted to throw into the mix on this, or you going to join us again next week?
Well, I saw the little notification. Actually, I came in on my phone and then thought, oh, gee, no, we're not going to do that. Let me go get over to my notebook.
Tim Peter says he might join us as well next week, as well as Julie from the eye. So we might have a few compatriots in crime as well. But DeAndre and Tucker are the mainstays of happiness, and so is Bethany. They didn't get to jump on, and neither did Tucker. So they're usually, between any of us, we usually keep the squares filled. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Tucker. Thank you, Mr. D. Thank you, Carrie, Bethany, Bart, and Robert. Thank you so much. And we will have it at the same time next week. Bye, guys.
Bye.